I really didn't think that you'd hate my parents like this. How disappointing.
I'm shocked too. Christy, you're terrible.
Hearing this, I finally screamed hysterically because I couldn't stand what my husband Paul and mother-in-law Kate was saying. Why do you both have to make me feel like I'm the bad guy here? Isn't it a common knowledge that a honeymoon is for the married couple? Why can't you understand that it's wrong of you to try to bring your parents along to our honeymoon? But no matter how much I told my husband, he wouldn't listen to me.
I'm taking my whole family to our honeymoon. If you don't like it, then I'll divorce you.
Paul said those words in an irritating manner. Oh, I see. So I guess this means that my husband cares more about his own parents than me. Fine. Let's get a divorce then.
What?
My husband looked surprised when I agreed to his idea. My name is Christy, and I'm a 28-year-old office worker. It's already been 6 years since I graduated from college and continued working for the company I started working for. I kept getting so absorbed in my busy but challenging job that I missed the right timing to get married. Some of my colleagues who were younger than me were getting married as early as when they were 24 or 25, and I was honestly getting worried about myself. I wonder if I'll be treated like one of those old veteran female employees in the office. Of course, there are female colleagues who are older than me. They are very dependable women who can do their jobs well. I admire them, but it's also true that somewhere in the back of my mind, there's a part of me that I strongly feel that I don't want to remain single. That was when I met Paul. Paul is very kind and always prioritizes where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do on our dates. I had never met a man be so kind to me before, so I was very happy and I gladly accepted his proposal. Everyone, including my parents, congratulated us at the wedding ceremony. Even after our marriage, Paul continues to smile and relaxes me with his usual calm face. Even when I come home tired from work, just seeing Paul's face made me feel happy. Come to think of it, my father-in-law is also very calm like my husband, but it was surprising that my mother-in-law, Kate, was more aggressive. Well, we don't plan to live together anyways, and the only time we will see them will be for Thanksgiving and the New Year's holidays. So, I'm not really involved with her. But still, I knew from the time we first greeted each other that Kate didn't like me very much. I had planned to continue working after we got married, but Kate didn't like that. Her mindset was old-fashioned, and she complained, saying, "What kind of wife does she think she is going out to work?" And I think it was also partly because Paul was honest enough to tell her that I had a higher salary than him. "Normally, you should respect your man. If you're going to work, work somewhere that has a lower salary than your own husband." I really couldn't understand Kate's point about that. It's not that Paul was a bad person, just that I made more money than him. Besides, it seems so strange to me to lower my salary just to respect Paul when I know that the job would pay me so well. My husband also agrees with my decision to work at my current company, saying,
"We really don't know what the future holds."
But I haven't been able to fully argue back in front of Kate. Therefore, I secretly thought that I would try to avoid Kate as much as possible so that she wouldn't force me to do anything strange.
Anyways, which travel agency are you going to choose?
Paul asks me. The wedding ceremony is a major life event, but honeymoon is just as important. When it comes to traveling in Europe, there are a wide range of traveling agencies that offer different plans. So, we couldn't decide which agency to choose. I would like to go here, but I'm also interested in this agency's wine tasting tour of authentic French wines. I have always been fascinated with Europe. For some reason, I loved seeing their historical buildings, and I love the atmosphere of Europe, which cherishes its old-fashioned retro atmosphere, while also being very modern as well as being very fashionable. I'm sure that a chance like this only comes once in a lifetime.
I'll go wherever you want to go, Christy.
My husband said this in his usual laid-back tone. It's nice that he's always so calm, but I'm a little frustrated that he doesn't really say his opinion or take the lead at times like this. The only time we get a long vacation is for our honeymoon, and an overseas trip is not something we get to do very often. I'll still think about it. My husband laughed and went to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. It's not often that we get to go to overseas or on a vacation, but more than anything else, a honeymoon is a once-in-a-lifetime event. My husband and I wanted to create wonderful memories that would last a lifetime. For that reason, I didn't want to make a choice that I would regret. Excuse me, I would like to have this tour, please. Sounds great. I'm glad that you found a tour that you're satisfied with. To be honest, it took me more than a month. No, almost 2 months to choose. I don't think anyone worries that much about a trip. I also feel like I caused so much trouble at the travel agency as well. I'm sorry it took so long. I had to ask you many times about the details of the tour. I said apologetically, and the female staff of the travel agency gave me a friendly smile. No, please don't worry about it. It's your honeymoon, right? It's an important once-in-a-lifetime trip, so it's only natural to think it over as many times as you want. There are even customers who spent half a year thinking about it while they are also planning their wedding ceremony. I was really surprised to hear that it took 6 months for some couples to plan out their honeymoon. Our role is to provide a trip that will become wonderful memories for all our customers. I was relieved to hear that from the traveling agency. I was grateful to the wedding planner for her help at the wedding, but now I can only be thankful for the support of so many people who have come to support and help us. Thinking this, I realized that we human beings can't live alone. My anxiety about whether things would go well on the trip naturally faded away, and I was able to focus on my work with peace of mind. That evening, after my husband came home, I told him about my decision. I've decided on our honeymoon plan. I'm going to choose this agency. As I inform him like an excited child would do, Paul responds to me in a relaxed manner, saying,
Well, I'm glad you found a good plan.
I was a little taken aback by his reply, in which he sounded a little uninterested. But I was the one who had longed for a trip to Europe in the first place. And well, maybe this is how husbands in general react to things. Are you looking forward to our honeymoon? My husband looked surprised and said,
Of course. It will definitely be a fun trip if it's with you, Christy.
That evening, my husband and I spent the rest of the evening talking about the trip. Since both of us were working, we both couldn't take 12 days off at the same time, which was required for a trip to Europe. So, we took our time to schedule, but the dates were quickly decided compared to what I had expected. When I reported to my boss that I would be taking the days off, he happily congratulated me. Honeymoons are special. Forget about work and enjoy it to the fullest. Thank you very much, sir. I also told my mother about the trip. Oh, a trip to Europe sounds wonderful. Don't worry, I'll get some souvenirs. I'll pick out some fashionable souvenirs. Thank you. But don't worry about the souvenirs. Just enjoy your honeymoon, sweetie. My mother had sent me off happily. I've already checked the weather in the European region, and now I need to check the flight times, what to bring, and so on. How can preparations for fun things go so smoothly? But unlike me, who was impatient, Paul is a laid-back person by nature, so he seems to be taking his time in preparing for the trip. But both of us had finished packing our luggage a week before the trip. Then, Paul has suddenly asked,
Can I buy another luggage?
I was a little taken aback by his sudden question. What? What we have isn't enough? I mean, you've already packed it, but do you have to repack again to the new one if you're going to order it? When I asked him that, he said,
No, I was thinking of making additional preparations.
which made me even more confused. Then it occurred to me that maybe he was thinking of souvenirs. When I packed what seemed to be necessary for the two of us, there wasn't much room in either of our luggages. I figured we could fit souvenirs for each other's parents and work, but if I found a nice antique over there, I might be tempted to buy it. You're right. It would be nice to have at least one more luggage. I took Paul's suggestion without thinking it through at the time.
Thanks. Then I'll order it online as soon as I can.
I was genuinely happy that Paul had finally suggested something, since he had not given me much of his ideas at the wedding or on our previous trips. And finally, on the day before our honeymoon, I couldn't help but get excited thinking that we were finally leaving tomorrow. Like a child before going on a field trip, I wondered what I would do if I couldn't sleep. Just as I was thinking that, my husband came back home from work.
I'm home.
Welcome back! It's tomorrow!
Yeah.
Should we eat something simple tonight so that we can go to sleep early for tomorrow?
Sure. Tomorrow we have to be up early, right? Before we go to the airport, I have to get my parents... Oh!
What? Paul has suddenly screamed, so I got surprised. What happened? Did you forget something? What on earth did he forget the day before our honeymoon? There should be nothing wrong with our passports or traveling documents. So, I couldn't really understand why Paul was panicking. Then, out of my husband's mouth came these unbelievable words.
I was going to ask you to get tickets for my father and mother, but I forgot. I wonder if it's still possible to get them now.
Huh? What are you talking about? Tickets? Are your parents going on a trip somewhere? Or to a concert or something? I had no idea what Paul was talking about. Then he says,
No, I mean the honeymoon.
Huh?
I contacted my parents after we decided on our honeymoon, but my mom got mad saying that a husband's parents are supposed to accompany to the honeymoon. Christy, have you already reserved the tickets for them?
I was absolutely stunned. What in the world was he talking about? My anger rose to the boiling point. What are you talking about? A honeymoon is for married couples, isn't it? I've never heard of parents going to the honeymoon with the married couple. Even though I was angry at Paul for saying this, he wouldn't understand at all.
No, but my parents are very happy to hear that we're going to Europe, you know?
I don't understand why he'd say such a thing. We just got married, and this is a special trip for us. Do you think that our honeymoon is just a family vacation or something? Then suddenly, the doorbell rang. I glanced through the door and saw my in-laws there. Despite my surprise, my husband answered the door as if nothing had happened and quickly let them into the living room.
I'm sorry to bother you,
Kate said as she held a big duffel bag in her hand. And and it looked like her duffel bag had a lot of things in it. Kate? I was so upset that I was at a loss for words, but Kate continued to talk one after another.
If we're traveling with an airplane, then maybe this duffel bag might be too big. I heard you prepared another luggage, but where is it?
What? Was that for your mother? I looked at my husband, and he looked at me as if he was saying,
Of course.
I don't want to argue with my parents-in-law, but this time, I can't back down either. After all, this was our honeymoon, and I had planned it for a very long time. Besides, we couldn't get tickets for them now, and I had just confirmed online that the tour was fully booked, including us.
Well, you know, Kate, this is our honeymoon.
But Kate seemed like she didn't really care and just replied,
Yes, I know, you both just got married.
My husband didn't look like he was upset about the fact that his parents were coming to the honeymoon. My father-in-law is standing behind Kate with an equally large amount of luggage. Honeymoons are usually for the two married people, right? To this, Kate replied,
What are you talking about? You are the wife who joined our family, and if you are a wife, it is only natural that you should serve your husband's family.
No, I would travel with both of you if this was a family vacation. But isn't a honeymoon supposed to be for the married couple alone?
Well, there is no such rule.
Then how was it when you had your honeymoon, Kate? I was angry at Kate, who didn't listen to me at all.
Well, at that time, my mother-in-law couldn't walk very well, so she didn't come with us. It is the duty of a daughter-in-law to not make things difficult for the mother-in-law, right?
So your mother-in-law didn't actually come to your honeymoon, right? But you're coming to our honeymoon? After hearing this, Kate clearly began to be in a bad mood. But I'm not going to take any step back.
You see, we were very much looking forward to our trip to Europe.
I was really looking forward to this trip to Europe. Just hearing those words, all the hard work and excitement I had been through came rushing back to me, and I almost burst into tears. Even I was looking forward to our honeymoon as a married couple. Then Paul interrupted.
Christy, it's all good. Wouldn't the trip be more fun with my parents around? If we can't make it tomorrow, let's just cancel the trip and find a place where the four of us can go to again.
I was too stunned. Paul is really planning to take my in-laws on our honeymoon. I got even a little dizzy at his statement. I really wanted to endure it, but honestly, I felt like crying out right now.
What? How could you even say that?
When I said this in a voice that sounded like it was about to disappear, my husband sighed and began to say this.
I never thought that you would hate my parents so much. How disappointing.
I'm shocked too. Christy, you're terrible.
Hearing this, I finally screamed hysterically because I couldn't stand what Paul and Kate was saying. Why do you both have to make me feel like I'm the bad guy here? Isn't it a common knowledge that a honeymoon is for the married couple? Why can't you understand that it's wrong of you to try to bring your parents along to our honeymoon? But no matter how much I told my husband, he wouldn't listen to me.
Christy, you've been acting strange lately. You have never been cold like this before.
Paul says with a look of dismay on his face.
Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. Can I ask you to go home today? You can leave your luggages here.
Saying this, Paul took my parents-in-law to the front door. Kate was saying something by the front door, but I couldn't hear her. When he came back a little while later, Paul said,
Cancel the trip for now and think about it calmly.
I no longer had the energy to even respond to his words. At the same time, I could feel my feelings that I had for Paul go away. Even if I remained married to him, I was sure that he would always put his parents first, not me. There was no need for me to stay married to someone who wouldn't protect me when I needed it. I contacted the travel agency just before their business hours ended. There was no way I could go on a fun trip in this situation anyway. The person who was in charge at the travel agency when I made the decision answered the phone and asked me several times if I really wanted to cancel or not. I told her in a sad voice that I wanted to cancel. The person in charge seemed to have guessed what was going on. She briefly explained the necessary details, including the fact that there would be a cancellation fee the day before. By this point, I wasn't feeling disappointed. It was just a clerical task for me. For the next few days, Paul and I did not speak to each other. Paul says something like,
We'll resume talking when you calm down.
But I don't think I'm wrong at all. So I didn't apologize or even try to talk to him. Then suddenly, before dinner, Paul put the divorce papers on the table.
I'm taking my whole family on our honeymoon. If you don't like it, then I'll divorce you.
Paul says this with an irritated attitude. Oh, I see. I guess my husband cares more about his own parents than me. Fine. Then let's get a divorce.
What?
My husband was surprised that I easily agreed to his idea.
Hey, wait a minute. Are you serious?
What? You're the one who brought the divorce papers and started this. Don't tell me that you were saying that just to threaten me.
No.
Paul looked away awkwardly. I couldn't care less anymore and proceeded to fill out the divorce papers. Some people might think that we were getting divorced only because of a honeymoon. But I knew now that this man would not protect me in any case. I wouldn't be able to live a long, happy life with such a person like him. If he wants to travel so badly with his parents, then he should just go on a family vacation with them. Here, I finished signing it. I handed it to him, and Paul filled it out with his trembling hands. Well, I'll submit it to the city office tomorrow. With that, I snatched the divorce papers from Paul's hands. He looked at me in a frightened way. He may have been emotional and regretted bringing the divorce papers to me, but it is already too late. Once my feelings leave, then there's no going back. So just like that, our divorce was finalized with no problems. When I told my parents about the divorce, they were surprised. But when I told them about our honeymoon issue and my in-laws, they were stunned.
It's a good thing you got a divorce before things got messy,
they said. By the way, after the divorce, my ex-husband complained to his co-workers that I was a selfish woman who didn't take care of his parents. But it seems that his intention to show my insanity by bringing up about our honeymoon was reversed, and instead, his own insanity was exposed to his coworkers. The fact that my ex-husband wanted to take his own parents along on our honeymoon spread throughout the company because in reality, taking his parents to the honeymoon was a ridiculous idea. In no time at all, he was recognized as a mama's boy, and Paul couldn't understand this. It began to have a rebellious attitude toward those around him, saying,
Why should I be told like that?
He was apparently transferred to a regional sales office, but he quit after showing the company how much of a mama's boy he was by saying,
I'll quit if it's too far away from my parents' house.
Rumor has it that he is currently at home, jobless, and he's not even searching for a job. The cause of this seems to be Kate, who has been incessantly calling Paul's former boss to complain and even sending letters saying, "It's the company's fault for forcing my son to resign." She kept saying, "I will continue to sue them until they pay my son proper damages." And as a result, the company sued her for obstruction of business. As a result, the damages were paid by Kate, and my ex-father-in-law apparently had to pay on her behalf. When I see them causing all kinds of troubles in this way, even though we are now strangers, I'm so glad that I got away from them. Meanwhile, I rented an apartment for a single person near my office and started living alone. I still have nothing else to do but work, and I am devoting myself to my job more than ever. Then, a veteran female co-worker, whom I had admired for a long time, complimented me saying,
You've been working harder than usual lately.
Then, the two of us went out for drinks after work, and she taught me about her work and the experiences that she had working at the company.
I'm thinking of creating my own company within a few years. If you like, Christy, would you work with me at my company?
I had only one answer. Yes, I would love to work with you. I guess this kind of adventurous life is for me after all. I hope to meet someone who understands me someday as I live my life in this way. Well, even if I don't meet someone, it will still be fun as long as I'm happy. Isn't the ex-husband really horrible to try to take your own parents on your honeymoon? He is a crazy ex-husband. It hurts to see Christy getting a divorce, but I am glad that she was able to get away from such a man and his family. Christy's work seems to be going well, so please live the life you want and be happy, Christy. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. After my divorce with my husband was settled, I started living with my daughter, Natalie. But about 6 months later, an incident occurred. It was my day off, and I was relaxing at home with Natalie when I received a phone call from my mother. To my surprise, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law suddenly came to my parents' house and entered without any permission. I got ready quickly and headed over to my parents' house. When I arrived at my parents' house, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were sitting on the living room sofa, waiting for me. I had no idea why they had come so suddenly. "Why did you both suddenly show up at my parents' house?" I asked, and my ex-husband John said something which surprised me.
I want you to give me back the money that you owe me.
My name is Aaron, and I am a 40-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband John for 14 years. My daughter Natalie was born at about the same time I got married, so she's already in the 8th grade. The three of us were living happily together as a family, and I knew that we would always be able to build a nice, warm home together. I met John at a blind date, and I was immediately attracted to his friendly, kind, and cheerful personality. He was also attracted to me as well, and we kept in touch all through our high school years. We exchanged contact information at the time, and we started going out after a few dates. A year later, he proposed to me, and we got married. I loved him so much, and I was so happy when he decided to marry me. I had a group of good friends from high school, and the four of us always got together whenever something happened. When I told them that I was getting married, they all congratulated me. I remember that they all attended our wedding and were saying that they wanted to get married too. Then, after my wedding, one by one, my friends got married to their husbands one after another, and all the members got married. We laughed and talked about how our group has suddenly become a group of adults, because just a group of good friends and classmates had all at once become a group of married women. Then, when I got pregnant, They all started getting pregnant one after the other, and in no time at all, it became a group of mom friends. I felt like we were going through life together, and I knew we would be close, good friends for the rest of our lives. I had a fulfilling time as a wife and a mother in this way, but I think I was also happy being an employee at the company where I work for. After I graduated from college, I was assigned to the planning and development department of a major company where I worked very busily every day. The work required difficult skills, but it was very rewarding, and every day was a learning experience and discovery. One of my friends in the moms group, who is a full-time housewife, had once said to me, "You're really a workaholic, Erin, but you also have a fulfilling private life with your family, and it's like you have two bodies or something." According to my friend, I am a very strong woman. But I really would like to have a body that is as tireless as a strong man. Both John and Natalie support and relaxes me at home after a tiring day at work. I'm home.
Oh, Mommy, welcome home.
When Natalie was still small, she would greet me with a smile and hug me when I came home from work. Just by hugging Natalie, all my tiredness goes away for that day.
Welcome home, honey. Dinner is ready.
Another person who relaxes me is John. John quit his job after Natalie was born and started working part-time because I wanted to continue working at my company. John began to work part-time at a cafe, and he was the one who picked up and dropped off our daughter. And when I came home from work, he would cook dinner for me. It's pretty difficult to cook with a tired body after a long day at work, and it's a real relief to come home and find a hot meal ready for me to just eat. John's cooking makes my body and soul feel relaxed, and I take a bath with Natalie and talk about the day. My life was like that, and my work and private life were very fulfilling. I think I was able to do this because both John and Natalie were understanding of my work. But because such a kind husband and daughter let me be like this, I became even more focused and got more passionate about my work. As I produced positive results at work, I was promoted to a higher position. I started working more overtime and began to come home pretty late at night. This often meant that by the time I got home, Natalie was already asleep in bed. Fortunately, by then, Natalie was in the upper grades of elementary school, so she was a little mature enough to understand the difficulties of my job and was able to do some things on her own. So, John also began working more hours for his shifts at the cafe.
Lately, I've been really into checking out different coffee shops and buying their coffee beans. I bought some today too. I also bought some cakes at a new cake shop, so let's have them with the coffee.
John seems to be addicted to coffee and making coffee, as he seems to be learning about roasting the coffee beans, making coffee with different types of coffee beans, and putting them into practice at his part-time job. That's why he makes very good coffee even at home. In this way, John and Natalie both forgave me for being so passionate about my work, and I didn't realize that our family relationship was slowly starting to fall apart. I first found out about it when Natalie came to me to consult about something. What's wrong? You said you wanted to talk about something.
Well, actually, the other day, when I went to see a movie with friends from school, I saw Dad being with another woman.
What?
It wasn't like they were holding hands arm in arm or anything like that, but they looked a little intimate with each other. And since last year or so, I often hear Dad talking on the phone before you come home from work, Mom. And at other times, Dad's so focused with his phone that he wouldn't really pay attention to me when I spoke to him, and he would look kind of happy while looking at his phone. At first, I thought he was texting you, Mom. I also thought that he was talking to you, Mom, when he was on the phone. But after seeing him, I started to wonder if he was talking to the woman from the other day. Natalie was saying this with a very sad look on her face. She was already in middle school at that time, so she is sensitive to such things and would not be able to handle the shock by herself. And hearing this, I was for sure in shock too. I would be very sad if John, who I thought was putting Natalie first, was actually having an affair behind my back. Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I didn't know we were making you feel that sad. I've been a little work-centered, haven't I? No, I think it's cool that you work so hard, Mom. So don't feel sorry for that. I was very happy that Natalie said such kind and understanding words to me. Thank you, Natalie. And I'll check with your dad about this, okay? And if your dad is having an affair, I think I'll divorce him, but will that be okay with you, honey? When I asked her that, she nodded her head. I don't like the idea of my own dad having an affair. Just knowing that and being with him would make me feel bad. Seeing my own daughter say this made me reflect on the fact that I had not paid much attention to my family. I must look into this issue thoroughly for the sake of Natalie, who took her courage to talk to me about such a heavy topic. I immediately requested an investigation agency to investigate about John's affair, and I was surprised to find out the results. John was indeed having an affair, just as Natalie had said, and there were photographic evidence of the affair. But what was most surprising was his affair partner. She was Stacy, who was one of my classmates from my high school days and one of the members from the moms group. I was more shocked by the news than John's actual affair. I was betrayed by a really great friend who I had thought we had always been close and trusted each other. Stacy is a stay-at-home mom, and she was the last in our group to get married. So, her child is still small, like 5 years old or something. And yet, she was having an affair with John without taking care of her own child. When I got the evidence of their affair, I was really shocked and couldn't move for a while. If I had not been in my room, Natalie would have seen those photos, and this would cause a lot of troubles in my family. I was not ready to show and confront John yet, and I could definitely not show Natalie these photos. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. Then, one of the friends from the moms group informed me that she had changed her job, so I thought it would be a good opportunity and suggested that we all get together. Stacy would still have no idea that I knew about the whole affair thing, even if I suggested for a get-together. So my friends set up an opportunity to get all together, and I was to meet Stacy, my husband's lover, 3 weeks later. In the meantime, I hired a lawyer in a hurry and prepared for the divorce. I told Natalie about what I had found out briefly and told her that her dad and I were getting a divorce. So, Natalie and I spent our days off together looking at new apartments to live in. And in no time at all, the day would come when I would confront Stacy at the get-together. Firstly, I asked my friend who has changed jobs to her new job, and then everyone gave their own updates. Stacy still didn't seem to know that I knew about her secret, and we talked normally. Everyone is working after all, so it's good that things are changing. I'm just a housewife, so I'm just repeating the same routine as usual.
Stacy says so about her life.
Well, you don't have to work, Stacy, because you have a husband who can provide for you.
Another one of my friends says that to her.
Well, I do appreciate my husband, but there are times when I feel like I'm a little bored of it.
I guess now is the time to talk and confront her about her secret. So that's why you have affairs with other people's husbands, right?
Huh?
Stacy and my other friends froze at my comment.
Hey, Aaron, what do you mean by that?
Stacy kept silent with her face turning blue, and the other friend asked me the question. Well, it looks like Stacy has an affair with my husband, John.
What? No way! You must be joking. Stacy would never do such a thing.
The other friends tried to protect Stacy. Since other friends protected her, Stacy took advantage of it.
That's right. Aaron, what are you saying all of a sudden? You probably must have mistaken me for someone else, don't you think?
Well, of course Stacy would try to say that. Oh, really? Well then, why don't you all check this with your own eyes? With that, I took out the photos of evidence from my bag. My friends are checking out the photos that are laid out on the table.
Oh my gosh! Stacy, why?
Stacy probably didn't think that I even had the photos as evidence. She can't seem to hide her surprise and covers her open mouth with her hand. I was really in shock, you know. Why did you have an affair with my husband? Stacy finally seemed to think she couldn't escape.
I'm really sorry. I happened to walk into that cafe where your husband works, and I told him that I had no idea he worked there, and from then on, I began to go there. My husband does provide for me, but he stopped caring about me so much after we got married. That's why I was beginning to feel lonely.
Stacy started to cry when she said that. But even if she has such a reason, having an affair is not good in general, and it's not right to touch a friend's husband. I proceeded to talk in a nonchalant manner and not trying to be carried away by Stacy, who was crying her eyes out. I'm sorry to everyone else, but I'm going to tell Stacy here that I'm going to charge her alimony. And I also put the content certified mail in your mailbox at your house today, Stacy. So maybe your husband should have already checked it by now, right?
Oh no! How could he do such a terrible thing?
Terrible thing? It's much more terrible to mess with your friend's husband when you yourself are married and have a child too. You should be punished and pay for your crime properly. When I said this, Stacy turned pale and nodded her head.
We can't really trust you two anymore, Stacy.
My other friends said so too, and we left the restaurant, leaving Stacy behind. Now that the revenge against Stacy was over, I had to deal with John next. I'm pretty sure that Stacy would have already contacted John about it. So, when I came home, John came to the entrance with a panicked look.
Hey, how could you?
What?
I just received a call from Stacy.
Are you talking about your affair?
How could you do it so publicly?
You're terrible. You acted like a good husband to me, but in reality, you were having an affair behind my back.
No, that's... But Stacy has a family too, so why did you expose her to her husband like that?
How ridiculous. I guess people who have affairs have a similar way of thinking, huh? You think that as long as the other person doesn't know about it, there's no problem, right? But in reality, you really did something wrong, so everything must be exposed as a part of your punishment. That's why I'm going to divorce you and demand alimony and child support from you. Since there was already evidence of the affair and no way for John to get away with it, he agreed to divorce, but was reluctant to pay for alimony and child support. But when I hired a good lawyer and told him that I was prepared to fight the case all the way to court, he finally agreed to pay. So that's how I divorced my now ex-husband, sold the house, we had been living in and moved into a new apartment with Natalie. I filed for alimony from my ex-husband and Stacy and received $30,000 from each of them. I also demanded child support from John. After the divorce was finally settled, I started living with Natalie. As one would expect, this incident traumatized me for quite a while, but little by little, my wounds began to heal. However, about 6 months later, an incident occurred. I was relaxing at home with Natalie on my day off when I suddenly received a phone call from my mother. What she told me has surprised me so much. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law suddenly came to my parents' house and forced themselves in without any permission. At that time, my father had gone out to take care of some personal business. So that's why my mother called me in a hurry. I quickly got ready and went to my parents' house. When I arrived at my parents' house, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were sitting on the living room sofa waiting for me. I had no clue why they had come. "What are you both doing here at my parents' house all of a sudden?" I asked, and my ex-husband had said something which shocked me.
I want you to give me back the money that you owe me.
Huh? I never borrowed any money from you.
I paid $15,000 for the wedding, didn't I? You were the leading role in the wedding, so it means that I had lent the money to you for your wedding. Since you divorced me now, it's all a fraud. To be honest, I would sue you for the marriage fraud, but all you have to do is return the $15,000 as a settlement.
He had said an impossible request. My ex-mother-in-law also told me to pay him as soon as possible. After the divorce, I knew that my ex-husband gotten a full-time job at the cafe where he worked from before. But, as I recall, the pay was quite low for a cafe staff. He must be in trouble with money, which was why he was making such unreasonable demands. Well, let me tell you this. We both were the leading roles at the wedding. And even after that, I paid more of your living expenses than you did for our marriage. If you calculate the total, $15,000 is a small fraction of what I paid. So don't harass me by making impossible demands. I tried to get them to leave, but they didn't leave that easily. Then, my father came home. My father had apparently received a call from my mother and had come back in a hurry.
What are you guys doing here?
My ex-husband explained the same thing to my father while being scared to death at my father, who was shouting angrily. My father listened silently but seemed to be beyond angry and taken aback by John's impossible demand.
It's your fault for having an affair in the first place. If you're going to make such unreasonable demands, get the hell out of here.
Saying this, my father tried to kick him out, but my ex-husband got down on his knees.
Please, Aaron, lend me money. Not only from you, but Stacy's husband is demanding alimony from me, and I really can't pay up anymore. $15,000. No, $10,000 would even help.
He must be insane to be begging for money at a time like this. I coldly told him, "No, I can't do that, so go home." But to that, my ex-mother-in-law says,
Come on, you are also responsible for what had happened.
and insisted that I was obligated to lend the money. The situation was getting out of hand. So, my father said,
Okay, I'll get the money, so wait.
And went to another room. Hey, Dad, what do you mean? I hurried after him, and my father grinned.
Well, I have plenty of money. Since we have it, why don't we give it to them?
I was convinced after I saw my father open the closet and take it out. Well, this will be interesting. My father put the bills in an envelope and gave it to John. After finally getting what they wanted, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law left with satisfied looks on their faces. And just as they left, I immediately locked the door and called the police. The two seemed to have checked the envelope after they went outside and immediately came back and started banging on our front door.
Hey, what the hell is going on here? This is fake money from Monopoly. I don't want this fake cash.
My ex-husband shouted angrily at the door. I laughed and said to him over the front door, "Since we have so much money, I thought I'd share it with you, you know." Then, my ex-husband said,
"You've got to be kidding!"
and started to bang the front door even harder. It sounded as if they were both kicking the door with their feet. But they didn't seem to think that this would end up becoming a huge problem for them. John and his mother were just kicking the front door when the police arrived and caught them red-handed. All the neighbors gathered around, and apparently a lot of people saw John and his mother getting arrested. In the end, John didn't get any money, but he had to pay a fine for the arrest and the cost of reimbursement for the damage to our front door. Moreover, it seems that one of the people who saw the arrest was a regular customer at the cafe where John works, and word got out to the cafe, and he got fired instantly. Now, he's currently unable to find work and has returned to his parents' home, where his in-laws are paying alimony and child support on his behalf instead. I have also issued a restraining order against my former in-laws against our family. Now, if anything happens, my family will be able to call the police and the police would come immediately. And now, I am happy as ever with Natalie. I will continue to work hard and watch my own daughter grow up. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. I live with my husband Phil and our son Jim, who is in the 2nd grade. Phil and I worked together to save money and bought our long-desired home. Just when I thought I would be able to live happily from now on, an incident happened. My name is Fiona. On his day off, Phil went out to run some errands from the morning. While that, Jim and I went out shopping and ate out at a restaurant together. When I returned home in the evening, I saw Phil's car parked at the parking lot. When I opened the front door, I saw an unfamiliar coat, which looked like it belonged to a woman. After seeing the coat, I immediately imagined about the woman and my husband being together. And I froze on the spot, thinking that maybe he was cheating on me. I hurried to pull Jim's hand, not wanting him to see me like this. "Is Dad here?" "We're home." But saying this, Jim quickly went inside the house without any care. "Oh, wait a minute." When I chased after Jim to stop him, I found a woman who I've seen before relaxing in the living room. "Good evening. I'll be in your care from now on." That woman was Phil's sister, Lily. I was relieved that my worries were unnecessary, but then I was caught off guard by Lily's words. "She'll be in our care?" "Oh, you're back. Welcome back home." Phil looked at me as he would normally, but he makes it seem as if his sister's presence at our house is a normal thing. I was so concerned about Lily's words that I couldn't really understand the situation. Why is Lily at our house?" When I asked the question to Phil, Lily answered, "Well, I actually got sick of going to college. So I quit college and my parents kicked me out. It's terrible of them to kick out their own daughter who has no money." Because of that, Lily has no home to go back to. She has no money, and it's not safe for a girl to go out alone, right? So, I decided to let her live with us. Apparently, Phil had decided everything without talking to me about any of this. It seemed that in both Phil and Lily's minds, it had been decided that she would live with us in our house. But I didn't want my sister-in-law to live in the house we had just built and were still paying for the mortgage. I never said I was okay with that though, did I? Why didn't you even tell me? Then Phil got grumpy, as if he thought I would willingly accept his idea on the spot.
My sister is in trouble, and it's only normal to help your family. Lily is moving in with us. It's already decided, so if you don't like it, then get out.
He speaks to me like this, as if this house belongs only to him. What are the priorities in Phil's mind when he has a family of his own? But if we argue over this, and I decide to actually leave, it'll be a disaster and a huge hassle. I'll have to go to Jim's elementary school to change our address again if we move out. Besides, I was worried that people around us would look at us weirdly if they knew Phil and I were separated. I wanted to argue back, but I suppressed my feelings. But I only allowed Lily to live with us on the condition that she would save money to move out. I've already got a part-time job, so I'll be gone in no time. I'll just be here for only 3 months, Lily says in a cheerful tone. I thought that 3 months is quite long, but decided to be patient and wait for 3 months. 3 months have passed since then. I was anxiously watching the calendar for now, but as usual, Lily is still sitting there as if it were her own house. She never showed any signs of leaving our home. She has been living with us without paying for her living expenses or for her food, so she must have saved up enough money to move out by now. I got tired of waiting, so I say this to Lily. It's already been 3 months, huh? You need to sign a contract for your new apartment as soon as possible. Hearing this, Lily looks away and says this. Oh, I'm not being paid enough because my salary for this part-time job is low. I don't think I can leave yet. I was running out of patience with Lily being at our house. When I come home tired from work, it's normal to find Lily just relaxing around in the living room. I serve her meals, but she doesn't even help with the housework and leaves the dishes out after she eats. She also leaves her clothes around, and she can't even throw the garbage in the trash. Even my son helps me around the house much more than she does. And on top of that, Lily doesn't show the least bit of gratitude, so I warned her in a strong tone. It doesn't cost you anything to live here, and you have enough money saved up to move out, don't you? I'm not your caretaker or your mother. You promised 3 months, so I need you to leave now. I told her in a strict way, and she burst into tears. I can't live on this kind of salary by myself. One more person won't make a difference, right? Don't try to kick me out. What she was saying was ridiculous. She was saying it as if I was the bad guy. Phil heard our conversation and came to the living room. When he saw Lily crying, he yelled at me. How dare you make her cry? If you can't take care of my sister, you get out of here. This is my house. You have no right to have an opinion. I had never thought that he would say such an outrageous thing and that he would put his sister before his own family. It's completely fine to care for your sister, but it is clearly going too far. I sighed when I heard Phil claiming that it was his house and Lily crying because she couldn't be independent. In order to shut them up both, I decided to tell them something. Phil, you've been saying that this is your house, but aren't you forgetting something? I sat them both down and showed them some documents. These are the contract documents for when we bought this house. Take a good look here. I am the owner of this house. I couldn't get a mortgage under your name. That's why I bought it, and the contract is under my name. In other words, the house is mine. Phil is currently working as a freelance, and his income is unstable, so he couldn't pass the home loan screening, which is why we couldn't sign the contract for the house under his name. On the other hand, I work in the government, and I was immediately approved at the home loan screening, so the house was purchased under my name.
Huh? The contract isn't signed under my name?
When building the house, Phil requested a lot of detailed changes for the house. But since he had done nothing about the contract process, he didn't even know whose name the contract was signed with. He assumed that it was in his name. This house is in my name, so if anyone should leave, it should be you. If you love your sister so much, why don't you and your sister, whom you love so much, live together happily? I ordered them to pack up their belongings immediately. You two need to calm down and reflect on what you two did this time. Don't come back to our house for a while until you reflect what you both did. With these words, I kicked them out of the house. Perhaps Phil was shocked to learn that the house was not his, and his shoulders slumped and quietly left the house.
So I guess Lily is finally gone. She always had a messy room, so it was annoying me too.
I'm sorry, I also kicked your father out too. I know you'd miss him.
That's totally fine. I knew that you would one day. I'm glad that you and I can live in a big house together, Mom.
Jim has always liked me and wasn't really close with my husband much. Still, I thought he would miss his own dad if he had to be separated from him. But Jim didn't really seem to think anything in particular about Phil being gone. I was relieved that Jim wasn't heartbroken because of this whole fiasco. On that day, we both had pizza for dinner, and for the first time in a long time, we had a pleasant meal together. Jim, who had been talking less since Lily arrived, talked a lot now, which made me very happy. After 2 weeks of living separately with them, Jim came running down the stairs looking panicked.
Oh, what's wrong, honey? My precious trading cards are missing. I thought I put them all right here, but none of them are there.
Jim's hobby was to collect trading card games. It seems to be popular at his elementary school, and he plays the card games with his friends. Jim has been saving up his allowance to buy trading cards. Some of them were rare trading cards, which are hard to get. He kept those rare trading cards in his treasure box. Jim, who was holding the empty treasure box, looked like he was about to cry. I searched for them with him, but no matter where I looked in the house, I couldn't find it as well.
I worked so hard to collect it, but why is it gone?
After saying that, Jim began to cry. I felt sorry for him because he really cherished them. While I was comforting Jim, I felt a certain strange feeling. Huh? The necklace I left here is gone too. I looked closer and saw that most of my jewelries were gone. Mostly the ones with diamond, and the expensive ones were mainly missing. I wondered if a burglar came into our home. I felt really weird that something so important to me and my son had disappeared. The next day, my work finished early, so I came home at around noon. It's not every day that I finish work early, so I decided to relax until Jim came home. I bought some snacks at a store on the way home and was excited to watch a movie I was interested in. Arriving home in a good mood, I put my hand on the door and found it unlocked. Did I forget to lock the door? No, that can't be right. I always lock the door and then pull the doorknob to make sure it's closed, as it has been a habit of mine. That has been my routine for years, so there was no way I could forget to lock the door. Then I remembered what happened yesterday. There could be a burglar in my house. I thought that the burglar must be in the middle of getting something from our house, and I was about to call the police. As I hid in the shadows and grabbed my phone, I began to hear voices coming from the house. It appeared to be two people talking to each other. Wondering what kind of person the culprits may be, I decided to listen carefully to their conversation. But then, I heard some familiar voices. It seems like there are no cars left here that sell for high prices anymore.
What about Fiona's bags here? Don't they sell these for high prices?
That's Goody's brand bag. They'll definitely sell for a lot. Let's take that one too.
It was the voice of Phil and Lily, no doubt. I could guess what they were talking about. They were stealing and selling Jim's and my things behind our back. My anger reached a boiling point when I realized what was going on. What the hell are you guys doing? As I entered the house yelling at them, I heard noises coming from the living room as they didn't expect me to be there. The two of them looked quite agitated and were rushing to get away. I stopped them with all my might, grabbed them by the chest, and questioned them. What on earth were you two doing while I was gone? Phil and Lily's faces were pale for being caught red-handed. Then, Phil began to frantically make excuses.
Well, I mean, you're not good at cleaning, right, Fiona? I was worried, so that's why I came to see if the house was messy or not. This is my house too, That's why I only came here to clean it.
Don't be silly. You've never ever cleaned before when you were living here, have you? I already heard what you two were talking about, so there's no use in making excuses. Lily, what's that bag in your hand? Lily quickly took her hand away from my brown bag.
I thought it was a nice bag, so I was just trying to get a better look. I only touched it, but I'm sorry for touching it.
I was stunned by their desperate excuses. I made them sit right on the spot. I listened carefully to both of your conversation. You stole our expensive things from our house and sold them, huh? Why did you do this? Jim is very sad because his precious trading cards are gone. They remained silent for a while, but Phil finally opened his mouth.
Since Lily couldn't save any decent money at all, she suggested the idea that we sell what's in our house. She said that if we don't do this, then we'd be homeless forever. So she suggested that we quickly gather up money from selling things from the house to rent an apartment.
Why is this my fault? You told me that we could earn some money if we sold the stuff we have here. You're the one who told me about Jim's trading cards too.
The two, who had been silent, began to argue all on their own. They were just blaming each other for their own messes. I was just so disappointed by them. You are both to blame. You're both stealing from someone's property, and that's a crime. I'm going to call the police right now. When I said this, both of them panicked and finally began to apologize.
I'm sorry. Please, just don't tell the police.
I'm so sorry. Just not the police.
If you don't want me to call the police, go buy back everything you sold. You have 1 week. If you can't do that, then I'll call the police right away. They nodded their heads and left the house apologizing. I had finished work early today, but I was in no condition to rest. Ugh, these are broken. As the two of them tried to get away in a hurry, they hit on some things and some of them fell on the floor. Among them was a photo frame with a picture of Phil, Jim, and I. Seeing the photo of us laughing brought tears to my eyes. A week later, Phil and Lily brought back the items and returned them.
Yay, good!
All my cards are back. Jim looked relieved that his precious trading cards came back to him.
I've paid back everything I sold, and Lily says that she's going to take out a loan and rent an apartment. So, I can come back home now, right?
By saying this, Phil seemed to think that this was all forgiven already. But when Jim heard this, he got angry and said this.
Taking someone's property without their permission is what a thief would do. I'm so ashamed that you, my own dad, is a thief. I don't want a dad like that. Don't ever come back. Jim was really angry. It was normal for Jim to react this way because, to him, it was like as if he had been betrayed by his own father.
I'm sorry, but I gave it all back, didn't I?
I gave it back, so I'm not a thief.
Shut up, thief! Get out of my mom and I's house.
My son was against Phil returning back. You know, I talked it over with Jim. I'm sorry, but we can no longer live together like before. All you have to do is sign. Here. I showed Phil the divorce papers. What? You are divorcing me for a thing like this? It's all too sudden. I've already apologized. Isn't that too cruel? You're the one who's being cruel. This could be just a small thing for you, but for us, it's the worst thing ever. Didn't you ever think you'd lose trust from us? That's how shallow you've been acting. My husband was trying to stand his ground and resist desperately. There's no way I'm going to say yes, I understand easily like that. We are a family, and there's no way I could cut our ties off so easily like that. How can you say that after you were the one hurting our family? Fine, I understand. If you're not satisfied by this, then I'll call my parents and your parents to have a family meeting. When I picked up my phone and said that, Phil became silent. He didn't want his relatives to know what he had done. I knew that Phil, who had a huge pride, wouldn't like the family meeting at all. Fine. Saying that, he reluctantly signed the papers. And I've installed security cameras in the house, so if you ever wander around the house, I'll call the police right away, okay? And of course, I'll tell my parents and your parents about everything. Without any words to say back, Phil just nodded his head and said, I understand. I won't go near this house anymore. Then he left with Lily. I was worried that Jim might be upset because of our divorce. He was still very young, so I frequently asked him if he was anxious about the change in environment.
I'm fine that Dad isn't here. He's a thief, and I didn't even know if he was working properly or not, and he never took care of me. With or without him, it wouldn't make any difference at all. My son seemed to be still holding grudges on the fact that his trading cards was stolen from Phil. My in-laws had offered a visitation for Phil to see his own son, but Jim was adamant about it. My in-laws didn't really understand why Jim hates Phil so much. Even though they are divorced, he is still your father. They're divorced, so don't make me call him as my dad. He's just a stranger to me now. I don't even want to see his face.
Jim hated Phil so much that he would say things like this back to them. I told my in-laws that something had happened which I can't talk to you both about, so please don't try to investigate about it. My in-laws wondered about it, but they didn't mention anything beyond that. This is the way it is now, but Jim's mind may change in the future. As his only parent, I will watch over him closely. And as for our family finances, of course, our family income has decreased, but I don't feel much pain. I no longer have to do any house chores for Phil. We are able to live a stress-free life and live within our means. Jim has been very helpful because he is actively doing the house chores so that he won't turn out to be like his own father. I imagine that in the future, he will be a very good husband, unlike Phil. As for Phil and Lily, they both returned to their parents' home together. But the parents were so stunned by the fact that the siblings returned at the same time that they weren't allowed in the house. Furthermore, Phil's performance at his company hit rock bottom, and he was laid off, and now he began working part-time at a fast food restaurant near his parents' house. It seems that every day he is being scolded by his boss, who is way younger than him. This is what Phil and Lily deserves. Phil and Lily are both at their wits' end and have moved into an old apartment where they live together now. As usual, Lily didn't get a regular job, and Phil is supporting her with his small income. I feel a little sorry for Phil now, but it is the result of what he had done. I don't care what happens to them anymore. So as long as they live in harmony, then it should be fine, I guess.